Are you a student struggling to find motivation and energy to get through your day? Do you feel like your brain is running on fumes, and you just can't seem to shake off that feeling of fatigue? Well, you're not alone. In fact, in this video, we're going to explore the science behind the lack of dopamine, and how it can leave you feeling drained and exhausted. So, if you're ready to learn how to boost your dopamine levels and get back on track, then keep watching. In 2014, researchers studied the relationship between dopamine levels and fatigue-like behavior in mice. The researchers used a technique called dopamine depletion to reduce the levels of dopamine in the mice's brains. They then measured the mice's activity levels and other behaviors that are associated with fatigue, such as decreased motivation and energy. The study found that mice with low dopamine levels had significantly reduced activity, spending less time moving and exploring their environment compared to control mice with normal dopamine levels. They also showed other behaviors that are associated with fatigue, such as a reduced motivation to engage in rewarding activities, and an increased sensitivity to stress. Interestingly, when the researchers gave the mice a drug that increased dopamine levels, the mice's activity and motivation actually improved, suggesting dopamine plays a crucial role in regulating these behaviors. Now I'm going to give you 3 essential tips to start increasing your dopamine, in order to improve your motivation, and ultimately your productivity. Tip number 1, decrease your light exposure and eliminate melatonin. While exposure to bright light during the day can help boost mood and increase alertness, exposure to bright lights during the late evening and early morning can have negative effects on our sleep quality and our dopamine levels. Research has shown that light exposure between 10 p.m. and 4 a.m. can disrupt the body's natural production of melatonin, a hormone that helps regulate our sleep-wake cycle. This can make it harder to fall asleep and stay asleep. In addition to disrupting your sleep, exposure to bright light during the late evening and early morning has been shown to have negative effects on your dopamine levels. A study conducted found that exposure to bright light during these hours can reduce dopamine levels for several days after the light exposure. For this reason, eliminating melatonin intake is important. Melatonin is a hormone produced by the pineal gland that helps regulate your sleep-wake cycle. It's often used as a supplement to help people fall asleep more easily, but research has shown that it can also have negative effects on your dopamine levels. A study published in 2001, which looked at the effects of melatonin on cardiovascular autonomic regulation in healthy men, found that melatonin administration led to a significant decrease in dopamine levels 60 minutes after administration. Therefore, decreasing melatonin will increase your dopamine and help you gain the energy to be more motivated. Tip number 2, cold showers. A study conducted by the European Journal of Applied Physiology observed the concentrations of epinephrine and dopamine in participants exposed to water of different temperatures. The results were fascinating. Participants who got into cold water immediately experienced huge increases in adrenaline and noradrenaline. But then, dopamine levels started to rise somewhat slowly and continued rising, reaching levels as high as 2.5 times the baseline. Therefore, cold exposure could be a valuable activity that can lead to healthy, sustained increases in dopamine levels, both the peaks when they happen, and to maintain or even increase our baseline levels of dopamine. So, how can we safely approach cold exposure? The temperature of water you can tolerate will depend on how cold water adapted you are, and how familiar you are with the experience of getting into cold water, but for most people 60-degree water is the starting point. Doing cold showers for a minute or 2 at a time, a few days a week is a great way to start building this habit. Also, it is worth mentioning that there is never a case in which getting into cold water does not evoke a release of epinephrine. This hormone is responsible for the quickening of breath, the widening of eyes, and the feeling as if you can't catch your breath. However, this discomfort is temporary, and the benefits to your dopamine are significant, boosting it as much as 2.5 times your baseline level for a sustained period. Tip number 3, regular exercise. Regular exercise can lead to sustained increases in dopamine levels in the brain. This increased dopamine release can lead to a positive reinforcement cycle, encouraging individuals to continue exercising to experience these feelings again. The consistent release of dopamine during exercise can also lead to longer-term changes in the brain. Studies have shown that regular physical activity can increase the number of dopamine receptors in the brain, which means that the brain can more effectively utilize the dopamine that is released during exercise. This increased efficiency can result in more sustained feelings of pleasure, motivation, and energy throughout the day, even when you're not actively exercising. Furthermore, regular exercise can also promote the growth of new dopamine neurons in the brain, which can lead to increased baseline dopamine levels over time. This can result in an overall increase in feelings of well-being, increased energy levels, and improved cognitive function. Additionally, exercise has been shown to reduce the symptoms of depression and anxiety, which are often associated with imbalances in dopamine and other neurotransmitters. Now, let's review the 3 important steps to take to increase your dopamine. First, decreasing light exposure during late evenings and early mornings can help improve sleep quality and increase dopamine levels. Exposure to bright light during these hours can disrupt the body's natural production of melatonin, a hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycle. Research has shown that eliminating melatonin intake can increase dopamine levels and improve motivation. Second, taking cold showers can lead to a sustained increase in dopamine levels. Research has shown that exposure to cold water can increase adrenaline and noradrenaline in the body, followed by a slower rise in dopamine levels. Taking cold showers for a minute or two, a few times a week, can help you safely and gradually build this habit. Finally, regular exercise is an effective way to sustainably increase dopamine levels. Consistent exercise can lead to longer-term changes in the brain, including increased dopamine receptor efficiency and the growth of new dopamine neurons. This can lead to increased baseline dopamine levels, improved well-being, and reduced symptoms of depression and anxiety. Thanks for watching. If you found this video valuable, please share it with someone who you think could benefit from it. You never know who might be struggling with the same things and could use some guidance. If you enjoyed it, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel for more content like this.